I am a huge believer in having a personal brand. You'll hear that term thrown around a lot, but I treat it as a form of digital integrity. You can work with me. We can hop on a podcast. We can hop on a coffee chat. Those are all things that are very one-to-one, and you will get a sense of who I am. But in the meantime, in the downtime, what is it like? Well, who is Alex outside of work? Who is Alex outside of just the calls? And who are you getting when you work with me? And so I think that your LinkedIn presence, your Instagram presence, your Facebook, wherever you live digitally, that's a form of digital integrity. Like, it should all be the same.
Hey everybody, it's Roger with Kinsta. Today I'm joined with a new friend, Alex. Hey Alex, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great myself. I had a conference last week and one before that, so I'm back home and I'm really happy and I'm feeling my vibe and my zen is happening now.
In fact, you and I met through a conference. What was that, 4 weeks ago?
Indeed.
So, I mean,
yeah.
you are the traveling conference man at this rate.
It's been a bit of a year so far. I have May off, so of travel anyway. So I'm kind of psyched about that. But yeah, you mentioned we met at the Agency Builders Conference and we only talked briefly. You work at the good agency. But before we kind of get into too much stuff, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into digital marketing?
I am the classic case of I'm never going to go into sales ever in a million years. That's your dream, Dad, not mine, the cliche. To then, oh no, I love sales. And that slowly evolved. My dad growing up, I have a 60s copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People. My great-grandfather worked with Dale Carnegie himself, so that has been passed down. My dad was in sales all while growing up, and I just said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something fun and exciting. Grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, which is UPS's world hub. And so all of my friends' parents had some kind of connection to UPS, and I thought, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a pilot. So I actually went to school to be a pilot. I am originally a commercial pilot by trade. And then I realized that I was miserable. It's a great hobby, horrible career, and I sat down and I said, okay, what do I love about this? I love the people aspect. I love that community building, service, taking care of people, solving tangible needs. Okay, that's part one. Love solving complex problems. Love the analytical side, the thought. When you're building a flight plan, you are 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of the plane at any given point. So I was like, all right, the analytical problem solving, the people, community, relational aspect, what does that look like? Oh no, that's sales. So
yeah, it is.
I got into the SAP ecosystem.
Ooh, deep in.
That's yeah, you go from 0 to 100 real quick. Found certain things that I loved, certain things that I didn't like, and over time I moved out of the SaaS space and more into the marketing and ad tech side, and then eventually fully into the agency world over the last year and a half, and love it. Never going back if Lord willing and the creek don't rise,
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's been a great journey, but happy to dive in.
Yeah, no, and we're going to
Give
go
some
back
horror
and we're
stories.
We're gonna be like the dentist here. We're going in. We're gonna pick at some roots here.
I promise I floss. I promise.
Well, we're gonna find out. So, we have a very similar story here. I was very reluctant to go into sales myself, to the point where I would not even get a job serving tables, like waiting tables.
Really? Okay.
Because I would get so anxiety. I would get in my head. I'd be like, oh man, I'm not gonna remember who ordered what. I would just overthink it. So I spent a long time not doing sales. I worked back of kitchen. I worked the front desk at a hotel. And then I realized the only way, because I have a humanities degree, the only way I'm probably going to make a living is I gotta bite this and go do sales.
Yeah. Or be a teacher. You could have been a teacher, right?
I could have been a teacher. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe someday.
Okay.
I'm working on maybe being a teacher. I'm a little too selfish at this point, I think, to be a teacher. I think
I don't blame you.
selfish teachers probably don't do as well.
It's so funny you were working back of house because I loved front of house. That was my bread and butter all through college, bartending. It was.
Well, yeah, I could have made way more money. I could have made way more money, but no, I was terrified of talking to people. And I tell you what, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great book. I think not just for sales. I think everybody needs to read that book. I mean, it's right in the title. And I think maybe, it kind of gets maybe some shade thrown at it for being manipulative. But if you read the book, it's not manipulative in any way. It's really just being open and honest and recognizing like, hey, if this conversation's not going anywhere, then why bother each other, and let's move on. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about you. So pilot, what really first indicated to you that you wanted to be a pilot? Because I want to get my pilot's license at some point. So I'm really fascinated about this.
It's an amazing hobby. I still say go get it. Get your instrument rating while you're at it. Keep yourself safe. The first indicators are before I even have memory of it. My family has saved drawings from preschool of me drawing an airplane and labeling it me. And they're like, you're what, on the plane? No, I'm flying the plane. The Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA, and they have a program called the Young Eagles. And what they'll do is they'll go around to flight shows and air shows and go out to little tiny airstrips, and they'll invite kids to fly. And I was 6 when I got to go on my first flight. I was after T-ball, and my dad was driving down, heard on the radio, like, hey, they're giving out flights at Bowman Field in Louisville, and lo and behold, I was addicted. It gets in your blood, and it's hard to get rid of that itch to be in the air. It's unlike anything else. So I went to school for it, loved it, and then there was a turning point where my flight instructor, who got me all the way through my commercial training, he called me up and he was checking in on me. And he said, hey, how are you? How's flight training? I said, great. How's flying for Piedmont? He said, oh, I'm not flying anymore. I was like, what? And he said, yeah, I got a computer science degree on the side, and I'm, now I'm coding, programming.
Okay.
So that was the wake up call from like, all right, the addiction's great. Is it a career? That was that turning point there of,
Gotcha.
Oh no,
Gotcha.
Maybe there's more to life than just being a bus driver of the air.
Absolutely. Well, and again, we're paralleling here. I was big into making model airplanes, Estes model airplanes as a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the rubber cement might have influenced that. I don't know. No, that's fascinating. I had a similar thing happen to me with taking photography and doing videos. I loved doing that as a hobby. I turned it into a profession when I was kind of doing my small agency work and learned to just absolutely loathe it. I've recovered a bit. I'm enjoying it now, but I've scaled it down. All right.
Guilty as charged.
All right.
I do wedding videos on the side for fun.
I've seen this. Okay.
It's it was the same kind of feeling of, sports I'm okay at. Definitely not a basketball star by any stretch of the imagination. You've seen how tall I am or am not. I'm average, thank you very much. Everyone else is tall.
I'm laughing with you.
And so it was funny because I picked up photography, and that it's a great hobby. Again, I wouldn't want to do it full time, so it's like,
Sure.
All right, now what?
Sure. All right. So we're about a little over halfway through here. I want to get some key points in. Let's talk a little bit more about digital marketing and kind of your focus and your strong interests in here. You have a great LinkedIn post from earlier today where you analyzed your comments, posts, and whatnot, and you got a lot of information. It's a great post. We'll link to it. People should go check it out. Talk us through kind of how you created this thing and what it's given to you.
Yeah. So my personal, I gotta wax philosophically to explain why I even created this post in the first place. I am a huge believer in having a personal brand. You'll hear that term thrown around a lot, but I treat it as a form of digital integrity. You can work with me. We can hop on a podcast. We can hop on a coffee chat. Those are all things that are very one-to-one, and you will get a sense of who I am. But in the meantime, in the downtime, what is it like? Well, who is Alex outside of work? Who is Alex outside of just the calls? And who are you getting when you work with me? And so I think that your LinkedIn presence, your Instagram presence, your Facebook, wherever you live digitally, that's a form of digital integrity. Like, it should all be the same. You shouldn't segment and bucket your life and just have this tonal whiplash. So I always want to be fairly introspective about myself. I'm always sitting there wondering, is who I put out there, who I really feel at my core. And I'm in a group chat with a few other creators. We have lovingly named it the flock. It's kind of funny. And there's a concept in linguistics called a familect. And a familect is taken from family and dialect, and it's when you spend a lot of time with people, you start adopting their vocabulary and little turns of phrase and all of these different little idiosyncrasies, right? So I thought, well, what are things that I say that are uniquely Alex, which is, you can't read the label when you're inside the box sort of problem. So what I did was I went to all the websites that have so lovingly curated my data to sell for advertising purposes and whatnot, but went and got a download of like 4 CSV files that were my direct messages, my post history, my share history, all of my comments, and I fed that to AI, and I said, all right, here's what I want you to do. After doing a little massaging, cleaning up the headers and removing dates and URLs, that way we're not confusing anything. I said, all right, what are my words? What's my word cloud of my 50 most used words? And what can I take away from that? Because again, what we say and what we repeatedly do is an indicator of who we are. So I went through and just analyzed it, and I felt fairly good. There were a couple things I was glad I didn't see a lot of, talking only about myself. My name does appear on there. I think number 49, 48. Yes. So it was a little funny that it was actually in the word cloud. I'm not sure if that's just from being tagged in comments.
We'll go with that.
I'd love to say that I don't speak in the third person that frequently, but it was nice though to see, hey, there was a lot of action verbs and like a lot. I put it in the post that the words and the word choices that I have tend to center around people and how I care for them and team building. And I think that carries through into my philosophy on good digital marketing and the idea that we want to tell stories and we want to make our clients the heroes of their journeys and we're the guides. And so that's a team effort that is doing things the right way. So I took a little pride when it was all said and done to see, all right, the words that I use and the stories that I tell reflect who I am and what I think at my core. That was comforting. But yeah, highly recommend the exercise if you're capable of, or nerdy enough to do it. It was worth the while.
No, it's very interesting. There's a lot of transparency there, and I love seeing people sharing this more and more and just opening themselves up. As you said, personal brand. It's really key, right? Especially in sales, right? The more I can show you who I am. I mean, there's a lot of scams going on. There's a lot of phishing attacks. Like the more that you can show that you're an actual person, the better. Alex, this has been great. I keep these really short. And so, as always, I've run out of time before getting more into detail, but I feel like we've got a great start here. Can I count on you joining me again for another episode?
Absolutely. I would be honored. It's always fun to build connections. I lovingly call it, you build your list of Bobs and Toms. It's the people who are best of breed, top of mind. And now, as I go through my life, I get to point people and build bridges and go, oh, these are the people that you need to connect with. So I love this kind of thing. So yes, excellent. I will be back if you'll have me and the world of LinkedIn or wherever else this will be distributed to, if they'll have me.
Absolutely. So the quick one to finish with is, if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Reach out on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I'm not cool enough to have a massive following on any other social platform, but LinkedIn, you can find me there. And unfortunately, or for the better, there will be lots of memes and GIFs and fun content in between the thought leadership. I promise it's not sterile.
Excellent. All right, Alex, it's great talking to you. We will talk to you again soon.
It's been a pleasure.